So, the missus did have a question. You know, the weather's changing, the seasons are changing. We're getting into that fall time of year, which means we're coming into one of her favorite holidays of the year, which is Halloween. And of course, we associate Halloween quite often with scary movies. So, in my best uh, Scream character voice, what's your favorite scary movie? Uh, what's your favorite movie to watch this time of year? The weather's starting to change a little bit. We're getting to that fall. It's Halloween's coming around. Her favorite scary movie, we'll call it, is The Exorcist. That's hers by far, I think. The Shining's up there too. She's definitely a fan of both of those. She likes a lot of those movies though, but I feel like those are, if you had to, a go-to movie that you put either one of those on, she'd be very happy with it. So, there's only one Halloween movie. It's called Hocus Pocus. I haven't seen it. I've seen the trailer for it like 47 times. Um, yeah. Some people would argue and say that the Nightmare Before Christmas is a bit of a Halloween movie because it's in Halloween Town and has all the Halloween characters. But it's really about Christmas, so I don't think that qualifies as a Halloween movie. Gassy Vegan says Tale of Two Sisters. I don't know that one. I don't know that I know that one. Olympus went for The Cabin in the Woods. Okay. Just Q says Rocky Horror. Okay. A little more lighthearted, a little more funny. Barkman's going with Beetlejuice. Okay. Okay. And again, doesn't have to be like, scary, scary, but, certainly fits the theme for sure. Beetlejuice. Scooby Doo Halloween special is rough. Is that a joke there? Because it's rough. But Scooby doesn't really make that sound, though, does he? Because he's a dog that can talk. And yet these people have not made millions of dollars off of him. They're still living in that van. It's like, you have a talking dog. How are you not taking advantage of that? Because he's not really talking. It's just because they're high. They think he's talking. Ace, you watched the TNG episode Sub Rosa? Is that the one where the doctor falls in love with the ghost? Samuel, you don't do actual scary horror movies? I'm not like a huge horror fan myself. Like I'll watch like Scream or something like that where it's not like horror, it's more like suspense. But if you start getting into some of those like, especially a lot of the ones these days now, it all feels like they're just one big jump scare after another. It's like, oh, you're just gonna creep, the camera shot in and really focus it, and then something's gonna jump out, and then you're supposed to just go ah. And it's if that's the only thing that makes your movie scary is a couple of like surprise jump scares, I don't know that you've done a very good job about that. So, Evil Dead, Evil Dead's a good one for sure. The original, hopefully, or do you like the remake from like 10 years ago? I'm a big fan of the original. The second one is basically almost like a remake of the first one, but they add a few more story elements to it. It's kind of a weird transition. And then Army of Darkness is just funny. It's not really scary to me. Evil Dead is actually like kind of creepy and scary in a way. Just Q says Pet Cemetery. Okay. Like the 80s version or like the remake from like 5 or 10 years ago? Hey, Pumpkinhead. Welcome on in. Barbie. Supernatural is kind of more of your scheme. Does Ghostbusters count? Star Trek? Sure, Ghostbusters counts. It's got some elements. I mean, that scene where the woman's in her, Dana's in her chair, and then she gets sucked into the refrigerator. That's kind of scary. The dude turning into a dog right in the middle of and the dog chasing him down. Yeah, that's some scary stuff. Spooky. Certainly fits that, Halloween type theme. But it does it with a little more lightheartedness. The Fly, okay. District 9. District 9 I have not seen. Just watch the Pumpkinhead movies. Okay. Evil Dead on Broadway? I didn't know they made a Broadway show for that. Okay. Lloydson says The Ring. The Ring's a good one. The Ring is definitely right in there, that wheelhouse where it borders lines on like suspenseful and scary. I think we all kind of jumped out of our skin a little bit when she came out of the TV at the end of that movie. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it yet. Sorry. You probably heard about that because, how could you? You'd have to really be under a rock to not know about that aspect of the movie after like 20 years, or 25 years at this point. I did not see the sequel. Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy always scared you. Freddy scared me a little bit as a kid, but then as I got to be like a teenager, which is usually when he picked the people off, right? When they were all teenagers in their dreams, I was like, this just doesn't work for me anymore, man. Like, this is my dream, right? So if you're coming after me, like, it's my dream and I could control my dream and I'd be like Superman in my dream and just whoop the crap out of you, Freddy. It's like, yeah, he's picking on all the jocks and the nerds, right? And the cheerleaders and stuff. He's not picking on like the geeks and the gamers. Because we'd be like, I'm Wolverine. I got my own claws, Freddy. What you want to do about that? So that's when he stopped scaring me. Michael Myers still makes my skin crawl. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the mask. Maybe it's the fact he has no dialogue in the whole movie. And he does that little head tilt thing all the time. Ooh. Might have nightmares tonight just thinking about that. Elm Street was scary when you were a kid. Now it's just a comedy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So I think what do we have left to do here? I probably should have looked before I flew everybody back out here. What do we got left with the Borg armadas? I can do 2 rares now, I think. Do I need to do 2 rares? I know I need to do 1. I don't know if I need the second one. I'll have to double check my math again. Where are we at? 540, so I need 210,000. You know what? I'll save that last one, I guess. And then we'll go switch this up and go do the Dominion solo. Because I can run a couple of those, right? Yeah, I can run 3 epics and a whole bunch of rares for that, so we can go mix that up a little bit too. The original Children of the Corn. Okay, that's a good one. One guy called himself the Wizard. He kicked Freddy's butt until he lost confidence. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess that's the thing. If you can't focus, right? You lose your focus for a minute. You start to get scared, and then you forget you have superpowers. Leprechaun. That's where we get to see Jennifer Aniston make her film debut, right? Or is that Leprechaun 2? I'm not sure. She might be in both of them. She's in the first one. I never saw any of the Hellraiser movies either with Pinhead. I know who Pinhead is. I have no idea like what he does or why he's scary to people, but he just looks weird. But I never saw any of those. She likes them. She liked those movies. All right, so let's go back to base. We'll repair everybody up. And then we shall work on some Dominion solos and stuff. Hellraiser was just gory, not very good with the storyline stuff. Okay. Oh, Pennywise, yes, from It. So I never saw the original with Tim Curry. I saw the remake one that they did a few years ago. I watched that on a plane. Actually, no, we watched the first one together, and the sequel had just come out. And I watched it on the plane, and she didn't want to watch it. And she didn't miss much because it really wasn't that good. She didn't like the first one. They changed too much stuff. They condensed too much stuff down. She has an issue with Stephen King movie books being turned into movies because he writes the way he writes, and he always it's a thick book. It's a 700-page book, right? There's a lot of story. There's a lot of detail usually going on there, and when they try and condense it down into an hour and 45-minute movie, they change stuff. They leave a lot of stuff out, and it usually just makes her mad. So we don't typically watch a lot of Stephen King movies. There's a few of them that do work out. Usually the ones from like some of his shorter stories work out better because you don't have that much stuff that you're leaving out. It's like you're kind of fleshing out a little bit the story. Like Stand By Me, right? His book, The Body, is like a 40-page little short story or something like that. So to make it into like an hour and a half movie with these kids going to find a dead body, like you can actually make that work and stay pretty close to the original source material. When you take something like The Shining, which is a 1,000-page book, and you have to make it into like a 2.5-hour movie, you have to leave a lot of stuff out. You have to change a lot of stuff to make sense of what you've left out. The original It was way scarier. Well, Tim Curry can be a pretty intimidating guy. You always think of him as just sort of being so goofy and silly that you don't know that you would right away think of him being like scary, scary, but I think he could pull it off. The Tommy Knockers was so scary they took it off the shelves. Okay, that one I don't know. Salem's Lot was decent. I mean, it was a NBC TV movie, right? So they didn't have a lot of a budget and could only do so many things especially because it was made for broadcast TV, I think, right? Speed 2 was scary. Only scary the fact that they made it. That's really the scary part. Like someone agreed to spend however many millions of dollars making that movie. We're going to make just as much money as the first one, except we can't get Keanu Reeves to come back, so we're going to just make up some other guy, and this time we're going to put him on a boat. No, thank you. Amityville Horror. Okay. That was certainly a good one. Yeah, I think I drove past that house once. I have a feeling that somebody pointed that out to me once. It was like, hey, oh yeah, and over there is the Amityville Horror House. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, is that where? But then, I think over the years it's kind of been debunked as like those things didn't really happen. Whether that's true or not, I don't know for certain. You want to go to Zach Bagan's museum? That's in Vegas, I think. His oddities museum or whatever he's got going on, his House of Horror. It doesn't face the street. Okay. All right. Well, I think we've got quite a nice little list here. Garrick, Elam Garrick, thank you very much for the follow. Zero Galactic, also for the follow. I'm going to have to resync Stream Elements, it seems. Actually, I'll just see if there's an update in OBS. Usually when it happens, like I said, sometimes when it happens, when the updates and the notifications aren't coming through anymore, it's because I have to push an update through OBS. There's a famous plantation in Louisiana. You can spend the night, and it's a very active haunted house. Well, that sounds, well, to some people, I'm sure it might sound fun. Other people, probably not so much. Ever watch American Horror Story? Yes, we did. The last couple seasons have been disappointing. She watched the first episode of the new season. She said it was kind of meh. So I'm not really anxious to catch up on it, but some of the earlier seasons were really good. The season with the carnival, with the circus, that clown, that dude was scary. Lions winning football games is scary. Eh, you could make that argument. All right, so we're gonna switch these crews up. Who wasn't in chat? Who was a Lions fan? Samo's not a big fan of carnival slash clown. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely not something I'd put near the top of my list either. I'm not like, oh my god, it's a clown. I'm terrified of them. But at the same point in time, it's like, it's like, oh, it's about a killer clown who does all this goofy stuff. You're like, I'll pass. I'm good. No, I've never seen Killer Clowns. I've scrolled by it more than a few times, and it's like, first off, I mean, at this point in time, it's from the mid '80s, right? So you have to think that the quality of the movie itself isn't going to quite hold up anymore either. Some of them still do. Some of them still do, I guess. But all right, now we got to go over here, and I think I'm taking on solos here. Bel Air, you got a credit for your loss of service for somebody cutting your cable wire? Well, all right. That's good. Get you 10 or 15 bucks back for sure. The Tooth Fairy was a good one. Is that with The Rock? Yeah. I don't know which one's worse, that or Doom. Because Doom was pretty bad. Oh, there was an evil Tooth Fairy? Oh, that's true. You're right. Like Darkness Falls. Yes, yes. The fairy tale, the Grimm. That was like the late '90s, right? I feel like they did a bunch of that kind of stuff, and then obviously, in the late 2000s, we got into Grimm and like Once Upon a Time and things like that, and tried to rehash some of those fairy tales into a little bit more of like a sinister environment. Yeah. So I need 210. Okay. From what I understand, like the original Peter Pan, like a lot of those original fairy tales, we tell them the kids, and it's like, oh, Hansel and Gretel went into the woods and did this, and it's like, yeah, and then they were eaten and mauled, and yeah, like that's the actual original storyline. we kind of, turned them around into cute little kids' tales. It's like, hey, we stopped scaring the crap out of our children. What happened to those days, right? Where you could scare the crap out of, all right, you go that way. You go that way. And we should be able to do this. Krampus, the evil Santa. Scare. It's the original Scared Straight, right? There you go.